I was fired like I was nothing, tossed out without a second thought. They treated me like trash, acting like I was just some replaceable employee. What they didn't know was that I actually owned 90% of the company. For years, I had been working behind the scenes, quietly building my stake while everyone else thought I was just another face in the crowd. When they fired me, I felt shocked, but I also knew something they didn't. They had no idea who they were dealing with. While they were busy celebrating getting rid of me, I was preparing to take control. It wasn't about revenge, it was about showing the truth. The very company they thought they ran was actually mine. I had the power to change everything, to flip the script completely. I sat back and watched as they realized too late who really held the keys. People often think power is only about titles and big offices, but sometimes it's the quiet ones behind the scenes who hold the real control. I wasn't just a fired employee. I was the one who owned the empire. And once I revealed that, everything changed. Suddenly, the tables were turned, and those who looked down on me had to answer to me. It was a moment of justice they never saw coming, and it reminded me that sometimes, the biggest power is the one people never expect. I never thought the day I got fired would turn out to be the day I took control of everything. My boss called me into his office like it was just another meeting, but it wasn't. He made it clear right away that I was being let go. The way he said it wasn't just about business, it felt personal, like he wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. He told me I wasn't good enough, like I was a failure, and then he showed me the door. I left that office feeling crushed and embarrassed, wondering how things had come to this. I thought all those years of hard work meant something, but apparently, they didn't. But here's the twist, he had no idea who he was really firing. What he didn't know was that I wasn't just an employee, I was the one who controlled everything behind the scenes. I had quietly built up my shares, investments, and influence until I held the real power. While he was trying to make me look weak, I was already planning how I would take back control. I had the keys to the kingdom, and he didn't even know it. After that humiliating day, I didn't just sit and feel sorry for myself. Instead, I took action. I gathered proof, documents, and evidence that showed my true role in the company. Then, I revealed the truth to the board and everyone involved. The shock was incredible. The same people who had believed my boss were suddenly staring at the facts, realizing I was the one who ran the show all along. It was a complete reversal, like the story had flipped overnight. My boss went from firing me to looking for ways to keep me quiet. But by then, I was already in control. The company, the decisions, everything, it was mine to steer. People who had laughed or doubted me had to face the reality that I was the one calling the shots. It wasn't about revenge, it was about setting the record straight and showing that appearances can be deceiving. That whole experience taught me something important. Sometimes, people try to bring you down because they don't see your value or they want to keep control for themselves. But true power doesn't always show on the surface. Sometimes, it's hidden, quietly growing until the right moment to shine. Getting fired was the lowest point, but it became the turning point where I took everything back. In the end, the person who thought they could humiliate me ended up losing control of everything. I went from being the one kicked out to the one who owned the entire company. It was a reminder that no matter how someone tries to break you, if you know your worth and stay patient, you can always come back stronger, and sometimes, take the whole empire with you. I never saw it coming. One day, I was working like usual, focused on my tasks and thinking about the next steps for the company. Then, out of nowhere, I was called into a meeting and told I was being dismissed. No warning, no chance to explain, just straight up fired. It felt like a punch to the gut. They treated me like I was disposable, like my years of effort didn't matter at all. I walked out feeling stunned and confused. How could this happen so fast, and without any explanation? But what they didn't know was that the dismissal wasn't the end of the story. I had something they never expected, a hidden power over the company that no one else knew about. For years, I had quietly built up control, owning a large share of the business and influencing major decisions behind the scenes. Everyone thought I was just another employee, but I was much more than that. I held the keys, even if I wasn't in the spotlight. After I was fired, I decided to reveal what I truly owned. I gathered all the proof I needed: contracts, shares, agreements, everything that showed my stake in the company. Then, I went public with it. Suddenly, the people who had dismissed me without a second thought were forced to face the truth. The company wasn't theirs to control anymore, it was mine. That shock changed everything. The same people who acted like I didn't matter had to answer to me. It was a strange feeling, watching those who had pushed me out scramble and panic once they realized they had lost control. They had underestimated me, thinking I was powerless. But it turned out I was the one with the real power. What felt like a defeat at first became my biggest victory. I wasn't just an employee who got fired, I was the hidden owner, the one who could make the real decisions. This experience taught me how easy it is for people to misjudge others. Sometimes, power isn't obvious. It can be quiet and hidden, but it's still very real. And just because someone tries to push you down doesn't mean you're powerless. In fact, those moments can be the ones that help you rise even higher. In the end, my dismissal without warning became the moment I took control of everything. It was proof that no matter how quickly things seem to change, knowing your true value and standing your ground can turn the tables completely. I went from being dismissed like I didn't matter to the person who controlled the entire company, all because I had the patience and the proof to show what was really mine all along. When my boss kicked me out, I thought that was the end of the road. It happened suddenly and without warning. One minute I was working, focused on the day's tasks, and the next, I was being told to leave. The way he said it made it clear he wanted to show everyone he was in charge. He didn't just fire me, he humiliated me in front of my co-workers, like I was some troublemaker or failure. I left feeling small and powerless, confused about how things had gotten so bad so fast. I thought I was just another employee, but little did he know, I was the true owner behind the throne. While he was busy pretending to be the boss, I quietly held the real power. I had worked in the shadows, building my ownership bit by bit, making sure no one suspected I was the one controlling most of the company. It wasn't about showing off or taking credit. I believed in staying low-key and letting my work speak for itself. But when he kicked me out like I was nothing, it became clear I had to reveal the truth. I couldn't let him keep pretending he was the king when I was the one pulling the strings. After leaving, I collected all the documents, contracts, and shares that proved my ownership. Then, I made it clear to the board and everyone in the company that I was the true owner. The shock on their faces was priceless. The same people who had cheered when my boss fired me suddenly realized I was the one who held the real control. It was like the whole company flipped upside down in an instant. My boss tried to hide, tried to act like he still had power, but everyone saw through it. The truth was out, and I was the one who had the final say in every decision. What felt like a defeat at first became my biggest win. I went from being the person kicked out to the one who owned the company. It was a reminder that things are not always what they seem, and sometimes the most powerful people are the ones you never expect. This experience taught me a lot about patience and knowing your own worth. People can try to push you down and make you feel small, but if you believe in yourself and hold on to the truth, you can rise above. Power isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, hidden behind the scenes, and waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. In the end, getting kicked out wasn't the end for me, it was just the beginning. It was the moment I took control of everything and showed everyone who the real boss was. Sometimes the ones who think they are in charge are actually just playing a part, while the real owners are waiting patiently to take their place. That day, I took back what was mine, and nothing will ever be the same. They always thought I was just another employee, someone who showed up, did the work, and stayed quiet in the background. Nobody suspected I held the keys to their entire fortune. I kept a low profile, never drawing attention to myself, while quietly building my stake in the company. It wasn't about bragging or power, I just believed in working smart and letting things happen naturally. But little did they know, I wasn't just part of the team, I was the one controlling most of the business behind the scenes. At first, people treated me like I was replaceable, someone they could push around or ignore. They didn't see the real influence I had or the decisions I was involved in. To them, I was invisible, and that was exactly what I wanted. It gave me the freedom to build my power quietly, without any distractions or drama. I watched as others took credit for things, while I kept strengthening my position. The real turning point came when everything was about to fall apart for them. They faced a crisis that needed quick decisions and strong leadership, and suddenly, they looked to me. That's when the truth came out. I held the keys to the company's future, the power that no one else had noticed. It shocked them, and honestly, it shocked me too. After all, I had been working behind the scenes for so long that I forgot how much control I had. When I finally revealed what I owned and the role I played, the reactions were priceless. People who had dismissed me as just an employee had to face the fact that I was the one who made the real calls. Suddenly, those who thought they were in charge found out that I was the one holding the keys to their fortune. It was a complete reversal, like the story had flipped overnight. This experience taught me a lot about appearances and assumptions. Just because someone looks like an ordinary worker doesn't mean they don't have extraordinary power. Sometimes, the real strength is hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. It also showed me the importance of patience and quiet confidence. You don't always need to shout or fight to be noticed. Sometimes, the best strategy is to work steadily, build your influence quietly, and then take control when the time is right. In the end, being underestimated worked to my advantage. They thought I was just another employee, but I was the one holding the keys to their fortune all along. It was a lesson to everyone that true power isn't always obvious, and sometimes it's the quiet ones who hold the most control. And once I revealed the truth, there was no going back. I was no longer just an employee. I was the one who owned the company, and that changed everything. I was fired in front of everyone, no warning, no chance to explain myself. It wasn't just a regular firing, it was meant to embarrass me, to make me look weak and replaceable. My boss didn't care about my years of hard work or the loyalty I had shown. Instead, he chose to humiliate me in public, right where everyone could see. I walked out of that room feeling crushed, humiliated, and powerless. It felt like the end of the line. But what they didn't know was that this public firing was just the beginning of something much bigger, something they never expected. While everyone was focused on my public fall, I was quietly planning my comeback behind the scenes. I wasn't going to let that moment define me. Instead, I started gathering proof of what they didn't realize. I had a much bigger role in the company than anyone thought. I owned a huge part of the business, more than most people even knew. The real power wasn't with my boss or the people who fired me, it was with me. I held the keys to the entire company, and I was ready to use them. I took my time, making sure everything was in place before I made my move. Then, in a private meeting with the board and top executives, I revealed the truth. The shock was immediate. The same people who cheered when I was fired suddenly realized they had been wrong. I wasn't just an employee, they were dealing with the owner, the one who controlled the future of the company. The tables had turned completely. It was a powerful moment, not just for me, but for everyone watching. My boss, who thought he had humiliated me in front of others, found himself powerless when the truth came out. I didn't need to get revenge with anger or shouting. Instead, I avenged myself quietly and confidently by showing my true power. It was the kind of justice they never saw coming. This experience taught me something important about patience and strength. Sometimes, people try to bring you down in public, thinking it will break your spirit. But real strength comes from within and often shows up in private, where the real decisions are made. I learned that you don't always have to fight loud battles to win. Sometimes, the best way to win is to wait, prepare, and then reveal the truth when the time is right. In the end, being fired in public didn't destroy me, it was the moment that sparked my rise. The shocking truth I revealed changed everything, turning a moment of humiliation into a story of power and control. It was a reminder that you should never judge a person by what you see on the surface, because sometimes, the real power is hidden where no one expects it. And when that power finally comes to light, it can change everything in ways no one saw coming. I never imagined getting fired would be the moment I'd start taking everything back. It felt like a betrayal. After all the hard work and loyalty, they just threw me out without a second thought. I was shocked and hurt, but more than that, I was determined not to let it end that way. Getting fired didn't mean I was done. It was just the beginning of a new fight, one I was ready to win. After I was kicked out, I spent time figuring out how to come back stronger. I knew I had to be smart and patient. I quietly gathered proof of my true role in the company, the shares, the contracts, the power I had built over time. While they thought I was gone for good, I was preparing to show them who really controlled the business. I wasn't just an employee, they had betrayed the very person who held the company's future. When I revealed the truth, it shocked everyone. Suddenly, the people who had betrayed me had to face the fact that I was the one who owned the company. I went from being the person they fired to becoming the CEO, the person in charge. It was a total turnaround. The betrayal that felt like the end was actually the push I needed to take back everything and more. This whole experience taught me that getting knocked down isn't the end. Sometimes, betrayal opens the door to a new beginning if you're willing to fight for it. I learned the power of patience, resilience, and knowing your own worth. From being fired to becoming the CEO, my journey showed that even when people try to break you, you can come back stronger and take control of your own story.